Great. All right, guys, again, just really, I'm humbled and I appreciate so much. If there was ever a day you were going to decide, I'm not going to come to this writing workshop, it would have been a Sunday, I think. Sunday is more the weekend than anything else, pretty much, right? And here you are, the 100 of us here, and probably more people coming. So, again, I just appreciate so much that you've taken time out of your busy day or out of your free time, out of your summer vacation, to be here with us to do some writing. Okay, so again, before we get too started here, a little bit of review, and then I always believe in telling students what we're going to focus on, because I feel like if you don't know why we're here, there's no reason for you to be here, right? So I want to make sure that that's very clear for everyone. Okay. Okay, so when we first started this, we were talking about essence objects, the things that are important for us, right? Values, the goals that are important for us. And then we went from there into talking about the different prompts, what to do and what not to do in personal statements, okay? And then yesterday we talked about descriptive writing and writing a good hook. Now, I did get a good email yesterday from Alistair, so thank you for that. I did get one email, and I know other people have probably written a hook as well. So we're going to start by talking about that today. But once we have the hook paragraph, which is usually, now you can use, sorry, let me take this back. You can use descriptive language. Okay, so when Gohar says I need to fix my audio, can anyone else not hear me? It's lagging. It's possible, okay. Okay, it's probably that my internet is not good. Let me see, I'm gonna change my connection here. I can do this. Give me just a second, guys. Thank you for telling me. We'll see if this fixes it. Okay. I'm looking, guys. I don't see. I'm not a robot, but it would be cool if I was. I've changed my internet connection. I'm using my phone data now. That usually helps. Is my audio better? Or is it worse? Hello?
I think it's like
No,
the
worse.
same.
Okay.
But when you talk,
guys, I don't know what to do. This puts me in a weird position.
Some people say bad and slow.
Hello?
Now you are
Does this work better? Is it better now?
Sound is better. I mean, I think sound is better, but
that's better.
You're frozen.
Okay, cool. All right, I changed some stuff around. Roshan, can you hear me? Does this seem okay to you?
I can hear you, but I'm just saying that video is frozen.
I can't hear you. Okay, you can't see me, but you can hear me. Okay, I'm frozen. My video's frozen. Yeah, guys, I don't know, man. Seems like a problem today. Okay, video's okay? You see me? Everything's okay? Cool. I can't, truth be told, I can't see or hear you guys, but chat seems like it's okay. Cool. All right, so let's start over. Sorry, welcome back, guys. Again, thanks for being here if you missed anything. Little bit of review. Yesterday, we looked at hook writing, okay? If anybody has any problems with tech stuff in the future, let me know. This is one problem with internet working virtually. So I really appreciate you guys being here with me and your patience also. So we were looking at descriptive writing. I was saying that descriptive writing is something that we can actually use throughout an essay, but we especially want to focus on it at the beginning of the essay. Okay. Now, if you're wondering, We've been through this so many times that I don't actually want to take too much time to do this. But if you're wondering, let me see here. I'm going to move this so we can see it a little bit better. My screen. There we go. If you still don't know this link, that's a problem because we've been talking about it every day. But this is the website where all of our materials go. Okay, I'm going to share this link with you again in a moment. But you'll notice we have all sessions. I've been ordering them. So session 1, 2, 3, and 4 are available here. In terms of the recordings, that's something that Roshan has, that Education USA has. So you're welcome to look at those, but I don't actually have access to that material. Okay, so this is the link. There we go. All right, and I think that should be enough for us. Let me see here. There we go. Great. So we've gone into hook writing. We're going to move into transitions today. But first, depending on what we've done, can you guys see my presentation? I've just put up a PowerPoint presentation. It says, why do transitions matter? That's what you should be able to see. Can you see that? Give me a yes or no. Let's see. No, people are saying no. That's okay. All right, I'm gonna fix this, guys. Don't worry. This should do it. All right. Can we see it now? Why do transitions matter? Yeah, great. Woo! All right. Internet. Okay. So why do transitions matter? So we're gonna move into this today. And let me give you a little bit of a preview of what we'll do today. We're going to start by looking at whatever writing you did yesterday. Remember that I said from the very beginning of this class that anything that we write, we should be probably comfortable sharing with each other, okay? If you wrote something that is so personal or painful that you don't feel like you can share it with other students today, I guess I understand that, but I'm going to tell you also that I don't think that should be material that you use for your essay. If it's too personal to share with other students, it's probably too personal to share with admissions people that you've never met, okay? So I do hope we can share something today. We're not worried about grammar. We're not worried necessarily about spelling. We're looking at that hook. We're looking at descriptive language, okay? So we're gonna do that in just a moment. But then we're gonna talk about transitions. And if you know that word, great. If you don't, we will explain it. But basically, transitions is one of the most overlooked and most important differences between a good essay and a great essay. And you might be saying, Ben, that sounds nice, but I don't know what a great essay looks like. And so I'm happy to tell you that with any extra time we have today, we're going to look at examples of great essays, and we're going to talk about them, okay? This, again, is my email address, if anyone didn't know. Okay, so I think it's really important before we get started here that we remember the 7 prompts from the Common App, okay? And I said that you could choose any of these. I gave you one topic that I suggested. Now, I'll point that out here, but you could use any of these. Number 1 was some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, share your story. Now, this might be the essay that you wrote about. It might not be. Number 2, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Okay, I'm going to go to Aida's question in just a moment. That's fine. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? Number 3, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? So think about a time that your mind changed about something. What started it, and what was the result, right? Number 4, describe a problem you've solved or a problem you would like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, query means question, an ethical dilemma, anything of personal importance, no matter the scale. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. This is the one that I recommended for yesterday, just as an example, but you could use any of these. So number 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period, that started a time of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. Number 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging, so interesting, it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? Why does it keep your interest so much? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? And number 7 is just kind of a free write or free topic. Okay? So before I get into this next part, which is where we'll actually be looking at each other's writing, we do have some really good questions here. I want to go up because there was a question from before we even started too much. I got to find it. Just a moment. All right. Where is it? I lost it. There was a question. Looks like it got deleted, maybe? Huh. Well, there was a question, but I don't see it anymore. But there's another question down here, and it's a good one, okay? And if there are any other questions, that's fine. Aida says that she feels that what she wrote is not so good, that it's really hard. And that, yeah, I looked in the personal chat. I don't see anything there, no. I don't know. There was a question. It was from Norai, and I don't remember. I don't see it here. I was looking for it. Oh, yes. What do you do if you're sincere but cliche? That was the good question. That was it. So it's possible that you're trying to be honest in your essay and you still feel like you're kind of writing like a script to a bad movie or something, right? This is very normal, actually. We feel like our life is too predictable or something like that. I think we want to look for the parts of our essay where we can be the most honest with ourselves. Something that maybe didn't work out the way we wanted to, or a lesson that wasn't super convenient for us, right? Usually life doesn't work out in some neat, complete package, right? And so I think it's okay to some extent to have some element of cliche if that's honestly who you are, or that's honestly where your life is. However, in the interest of writing something that is truly unique, writing something that shows the uniqueness that you are, I think it's better to find a different approach. And so maybe that means we need to choose a different object or a different story to tell. Okay? Now, the other question, and a good one, if you feel like your writing is bad, right, that it's hard to do this in English, that's okay. Remember what I said. I think I said this to you guys. We're working on what's called the I+1 model, okay? And what I mean by this is I is your original ability, wherever your ability was. And all we're trying to do is get to that +1. So if you feel like your essay is looking beautiful and you just want to make it more beautiful, that's great. If you feel like, wow, this is really kind of garbage, but I can make this less garbage by looking at this and working with other people, that's also great, okay? Nothing you've done is bad. What matters is the effort that you've put in, all right? We all start somewhere. So what should we do for improving writing abilities? It's a great question. I'll ask Roshan what she thinks in a moment, but I'm going to give you my opinion. So to improve your writing, there's 2 things you should do. It's going to sound overly simplistic, but it's true. Number 1 is you need to read more. You need to read as much as you possibly can. Reading a wide range of things, okay? Not just academic sources or whatever. Read other essays from example essays from other students, okay? Read articles about the subjects that are so fascinating to you. There are actually links on our website to pages where you can find interesting articles on a wide range of topics. And so I think the first thing to do is to read more. Read as much as you can, okay? But the other thing is write more, okay? And again, there's no right answer here. But the more often we write about anything, the better our writing gets, okay? Now, don't be lazy. Don't just do abbreviated language, writing the letter U instead of the word you, and stuff like that. I don't have any problem with that on social media. Okay, it's fine. But if we only stick to what I would consider social media writing, then we're only going to improve on a very small part of what we could improve on as writers. So it's better to like keep a journal. If you're reading a book, keep a journal of your thoughts as you do it. Try to write responses. If you're reading a book of fiction, write a letter to your favorite character. It doesn't matter that you never get to send it to that person because they're not real. Okay, just write it to them. See what that feels like. Try to use the language in that book. Okay, and so writing should be fun. Reading should be fun too. This shouldn't feel, when it starts to feel like work, like only work. Okay, good fun stuff is also work, but when it only feels like work and it doesn't feel like fun at all, you're probably not doing what you need to do, because that's not going to result in the growth that you want. You're going to give up because you're going to get frustrated. Okay, that's my personal opinion. Rashawn, what would you say? What do people do to become better writers? Sounds like she agrees. Okay, great. So we've looked at these prompts. Now, I'm a realistic person. Okay, I don't expect to wake up tomorrow morning and look like Bradley Cooper. I don't expect to have a private helicopter by next year, and I don't expect that every person in this Zoom chat right now actually did their writing last night. I don't expect it. Realistically, I think probably half, maybe 2/3 of us did it, but I really hope we did, because like I said, we get out of this what we put in, okay? Let's see. Okay, great. Not pessimism, Jaguar. I disagree. I'm more of a realist, which means that I have a backup plan for when things don't go the way I want it to. Okay. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to put us in some smaller groups. Okay. I'm going to put us in some smaller groups. You can send it here if you want people to look at it as a bigger group. But I know that some people are going to be too shy to send it to a group of 115 people. I probably would be. Okay, so I'm going to put us in smaller groups of 3 or 4 people, okay? And I want you to share your paragraph with those people. You could either share your screen, you could read it to them, you could type it in the chat, whatever. But these are the questions we want to be thinking about when we look at someone else's writing. Number 1, what experience is the writer talking about here? Hopefully, by the end of that paragraph, it's clear what this person's talking about. If you're the writer, you might want to share, you should share, what prompt you're trying to write about. What is the question you were trying to answer? Okay. Number 2, once we know what the hook is, okay, you can share the screen. Yes, great question about that. In fact, you should. I think it's a good idea. Okay. Is the hook connected to the experience? Do you feel like the descriptive language being used is connected to what the topic of this paragraph is claiming to be? Okay, can you show that connection? Number 3. So these are questions for people who are listening or reading along, okay? Number 3, what descriptive language, what adjectives and phrases does the author use, okay? We're looking for those senses. Remember, things that we can smell, things we can see, things we can taste, things we can touch, things we can hear. Okay, number 4, are there any places where we could use more descriptive language, where you feel like it's actually kind of unclear? You would like a little bit more description. Okay. It's okay. It's okay to have internet connection problems. I think we've already been through that with myself. So if that's you, that's okay. We're recording the session for later, but try your best to stay with us here. And last question, if you think there are places where we could use more language, what words would you recommend? Now I'm going to put this in the chat. And then I'm going to have you actually try this, okay? There are 2 other questions. We'll talk about those in just a moment. I'm going to share them in the chat. Okay, and all right, good. So that's all of our questions. They kind of smashed together. I don't know why the numbers didn't work out there, but that's fine. That's all the questions, okay? And so if there aren't any questions from you, here's what I want. You're going to share the writing that you did, hopefully yesterday, the hook writing, If you don't have anything, I'd like you to talk about what scene you'd like to write. Okay, so if you didn't do anything, you still have work to do here. I want you to talk about what scene you would like to write. And if you wrote or if you didn't write, I want you to answer these questions about other people's writing. Okay, so I'm going to put us in groups. I'm going to give enough time to do this. I don't know how much time that'll be. We'll see, okay? I'm going to be checking on groups to see how we're doing. I'll probably stay in this room most of the time because I need to help people that are coming in late. But I will try to come in to see how you're doing as well. All right, I'm putting us into 37 rooms. That should be 3 people in a room. Let me make sure that's right all the way down. Looks right. And here we go. You should have 3 people in your room.
Ben, hello again. Could you add me to another breakout room because everyone
Sure.
was silent?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Of course. I see that we have some people who need to connect. Sure. Doing it now. Thanks for telling me. All right. We'll start in just a second. I'm going to wait a second to see more people come back here. Guys, sorry, it took a little longer. I actually got to go into a room today, which was sort of exciting. I don't usually get to do that. Most of the time, I'm just in the main area. But I know that not everyone did anything. I get that. It's about half. It's what I expected. But the half that did it, I actually really appreciate the writing you've got, and even just the ideas we might have. So I know that part of it might be that we're afraid to get the wrong idea or something. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit of time today to look at some essays together as well. Okay. So back to this. Back to the PowerPoint. We're up to 95 people. I think there's more people coming still. Let me see what the chat says. Someone just wrote something. Yeah, good discussion. I thought so too. The room I was in had a good discussion. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Yeah. Great. So this next part, again, I like to give credit where I can. I don't want to plagiarize. That's a topic that would be a whole session or even workshop series in itself. But we're not going to get into that too much. But basically, I don't like stealing information that's someone else's. So I want to give credit where it's due. All of this stuff comes from two excellent writing websites. One of them is the Purdue OWL, which is the online writing lab. Really great stuff for people who need to cite sources and write research papers, let's say, but also just learning about the different tricks and techniques used by good writers. And the other one is from Wisconsin University. They have a really good website where they talk about different transitions and lists of transitions there. Okay. Yes, kind of. It's not really a library. It's the online writing lab. So it's an online resource only. The question I'm answering right now, by the way, is so Purdue is a university in Indiana, which is in the middle of the United States. It is not kind of as an example to you that we should not only be looking at the Ivy League schools like Harvard and Yale and this. Those are great schools, of course. Purdue is not one that everyone's heard of. It's in the middle of the United States. And they are actually very famous among writing professors. They have one of the best writing programs in the world. And so they've taken all of their research and all of their work and put it online for free for public viewing. Okay, so it's one of the best websites for making sure that you're citing your sources appropriately and that kind of thing. Okay. All right, moving on. Transitions. Remember, that's what we're talking about here. Transitions, right? Transitions basically are the glue that hold our paragraphs and our ideas together. If you remember that essay that we looked at yesterday, the sample about obstetrics and gynecology, we had the sentence that talked about blood, screams, tight squeezes on small hands, and later, so that and later functions as a transition. And we go into like very, very positive language, laughter, coos, this kind of thing, okay? So we're gonna look at some examples of this first and then try to write about and use transitions ourselves, okay? So writing transitions. We're gonna look at using what are called transition devices. These are words that when we think about transition, if you do know that word, these are the words we think of. However, moreover, furthermore, in addition, after that, those kind of words and phrases, right? But first, I think it's really important that we understand that even without those words, we can accomplish what transitions are meant to do. Okay, so we're going to look at some examples here. Here's one. So this is two sentences, and here's what I want you to do. You can write it in the chat if you want. These are two sentences from a business writing paper, something on the topic of business. I want in the chat, can you identify each sentence has like one big idea. So what is the big idea that we're in each sentence? The two big ideas in this section. All right. Some of us are pretty quick. Let me see what we got here. Okay. So something about sale increase, definitely. That first sentence, increase in money, right? Good. And the next one, increase in influence. Now, good answers. Where's the influence? Where? International, right? Good. So, number one, increase in profits. Number two, increase in influence. Now, what we want to do with a transition is show the relationship between that first idea and the next idea. So this is the same writing, but we're using the transition device to show that relationship. Overall, Management Systems International has logged increased sales in every sector, leading to a significant rise in third quarter profits. Now, here's that transition. These impressive profits are largely due to means because of the corporation's expanded international influence. Okay, so we're showing a relationship now. It's a cause and effect. What is the cause? International influence. What is the effect? Increase in profits. Okay, so we're going to get some more practice with this, but this kind of phrasing is really good for showing relationships. This is important on a sentence level, and it's important on a paragraph level. Okay. Okay. If the comment, I look at the chat, and if the comment is in if it's in Russian or Kazakh or something like that, I'm not always going to understand. So if there is something, if we don't understand something or we have a question, you can ask me, but please, even if it's not perfect English, try to ask in English, okay? Great. Another example. This one is for those of us who in here loves the history of Denmark. Does anybody love Danish history? Yeah, nobody, right? Okay. But this is a history example, okay? So you can do this with any genre of writing. Okay. Yeah, I don't know much about it myself. We don't need to use transitions effectively. All right. So here we go. Two ideas again. Find me the connection. Okay. Fearing for the loss of Danish lands, Christian IV signed the Treaty of Lubeck, effectively ending the Danish phase of the 30 Years' War. But then something else significant happened. The Swedish intervention began. What is the connection? What are the ideas? Okay, so the war ended, Swedish intervention began, right? Now, I disagree a little bit with Batir's comment here. I'm sorry, Nurzagit's comment. It's good, but I don't know that we can say it's because. We don't necessarily have a cause effect here. Now, there was a Swedish intervention, which is probably a nice way of saying Swedish people, Swedish army came into Denmark. I don't actually know much about Danish history, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But we don't know that that is because of the Treaty of Lubeck. We don't know that it's because of it. There's a different relationship here. It's not cause effect. What is the relationship? Yeah, okay, I'm starting to see some suggestions. After. So what does that mean? This is about what? Relationship. The relationship here is not cause effect. I'm still looking at the chat, but I'm going to tell you in a second. Okay. It's a relationship about time. One of these things happened before the other. We don't know necessarily that it happened because of it, but it definitely happened before it. Okay. So which one of these happened first? Now, Azamat, I just want to be clear here. Anybody who's thinking this, we don't know that it's a consequence. We don't know that it happened as a result of it. But what we know is one thing happened first. Okay, yeah, so the signing happened first, okay? This Treaty of Lubeck, this happened first. And then after that, the Swedish intervention. So once we know the relationship, and in your essay, when you write your essay, you're going to have to look at sentences and say, okay, what is the relationship between this idea and this idea, right? Idea 1 and idea 2. And then we can write a revision, okay? So again, fearing for the loss of more Danish lands, Christian IV signed the Treaty of Lubeck, effectively ending the Danish phase of the 30 Years' War. Now, again, we have time. Shortly after Danish forces withdrew, the Swedish intervention began. Okay. So, and again, I know there's kind of a cool phrase, butterfly effect, but actually butterfly effect, if you're familiar with the movie starring Ashton Kutcher, also of that 70s show fame and Dude, Where's My Car? But never mind that. If you're just familiar with the concept at all, it's that one small thing can lead to a bunch of other things. That's still a cause and effect. This is not cause effect. Okay, I want to be really clear here. This is a time relationship. One thing happened first and then another thing happened after, right? Okay. So I know that this is kind of confusing. Don't worry. We're going to do some more examples. Good stuff. Okay. What is withdrew? It means they pulled back. They left. Okay. One more. This is about a book that was very popular, especially in some women's reading circles. I'm not saying men didn't read it too. It was actually a bestseller. But it was especially popular in like some feminist reading circles and like Oprah Reading Club and this kind of thing. It was a book called The Joy Luck Club by a woman named Amy Tan. Amy Tan became a famous author after her novel, The Joy Luck Club, skyrocketed up the bestseller list. Skyrocketed means it went up really fast. There are other things to note about Tan as well. Amy Tan also participates in the satirical garage band, The Rock Bottom Remainders, with Stephen King and Dave Barry. Now, we have two ideas here. The first thing we want to do is identify those ideas. One is, I can help you with this one. Amy Tan had a best-selling book called Joy Luck Club. That's one idea. And she also was in a rock band with Stephen King and Dave Barry, two other famous authors. So those are your two big ideas. Now, here's my question to you. What is the relationship? It is not cause-effect, and it is not time. They might have happened at the same time. That's true. That's true. It is one person. But what is the... Don't worry about transition words, guys. We're not worried about those yet. We can get those later, okay? They're both facts. Is she equally famous for both of these things? No, she's not. Which one of these is she more famous for? Yeah, exactly. She's more famous for writing the book. So we have a relationship here, but it's kind of a comparison. We have the one idea, which is like you're really known for this, but then the other idea, which you're not as known for, right? Okay. So we want to make that relationship clear in our transition. Okay, kind of a compare, contrast. Yes. Amy Tan became a famous author after her novel, The Joy Luck Club, skyrocketed up the bestseller list. Though her fiction is well known, so this means this is like it's setting up a comparison. Although her fiction is well known, her work with the satirical garage band, The Rock Bottom Remainders, receives far less publicity. It is not as famous. So here we're using a sentence. We could use even if. That would be cool. However, yeah, and you could do a sentence, right? Like, so, however, her work with the Rock Bottom Remainders band is much less famous than her fiction, right? We could do that. So you could use any of those words to do this. The important thing is not our choice of word, although that does matter, but let's worry about that later. The important thing is that we can identify the relationship that we want to show to our reader and then make that clear in the sentence, okay? So that's all well and good. And we can look at more of that later. Once you have your essays written, we can start to look at the relationships between ideas within paragraphs and then also between paragraphs. Okay, so a lot of times transitions come at the end or beginning of paragraphs, but they can come in the middle of them as well. All right, but in order to do that, it can actually help to have transition devices. And so for this next activity, I'd like you to take out some paper, something to write with, or you could use your computer, or you could use your phone, but you need something to write with. Everyone's going to try this. Okay, I'll give you a second to take that out. I'm going to do a little bit of writing in our chat. All right, now for this activity, I know I've said to avoid cliches, but for this activity and only this activity, I'm comfortable using cliches, okay? Because we're just trying to make a fictional story, all right? So I'm gonna write a sentence here. A long time ago, there was a powerful woman named, give me a name for this woman. What's her name? Yeah, we can do once upon a time, that's cool. But what's this woman's name? Give me a name, it doesn't have to be real. Katusha. Okay, Shagida, interesting. I'll go with Katya. Oh, you could do J.K. Rowling, that'd be fine. A long time ago, there was a powerful woman named Katya or Tamiris or Priya. These are all good names. Who was? What is she? Is she a queen? Is she a general? What is she? Tell me a little bit about her. Okay. I'm going to go with dictator. That's a good word. Okay, so she was the dictator of, and where is she? Romania. I like it. Boom. Okay, just to start here. Now, here's what we need to do. We're starting a story. Mine is just an example. The prosto primer. You're going to have a different example for yours. But we're going to now continue that. And the way to continue this is I'm going to continue my story about Katya, the dictator of Romania, by using one of these transition words for showing time. Okay, so give me a second. I'm going to do this. Oh, no, I didn't do it. Okay, so a long time ago, there was a powerful woman named Katya who was dictator of Romania. And then what do I want to say here? I've got a picture. It looks like some birds flying. Okay. Previously, though, Katya was not the leader of Romania. She was in charge of all the birds in her city. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to tell a story using each picture and then also using the different transition words. So, and then Shingis has another one. After a few hours, she came back to her kingdom. That's fine, but let's use the picture of birds too. So we're going to go back here, and I'm going to have you tell the story, okay? You do it your own, all right? And we're going to share with each other in a little bit. Again, don't worry if it's right, but you have to use at least one of these words or phrases. Let's get started. I'll give you a few minutes, probably 1 or 2 minutes to start a sentence about this picture, and we'll go on. There are 10 pictures to tell our story. So keep this to yourself for now. You don't have to share it yet. You can make any name for this, okay? And it doesn't have to be about Katya. It doesn't have to be about Romania. It doesn't have to be any of that. This could be anything you want. I give 1 more minute. Just write for yourself for now. We'll share later, okay? All right. 20 more seconds. We're going to go to the next picture. So don't share in the chat. Don't worry so much about that. Write for yourself. And remember, we're going to focus on transitions starting on the next screen. All right, moving on. Continue your story. Now you want to continue your story, whatever sentence you had before, using at least one of these words or phrases that show time. Try to use or phrases that continue your story. Okay. Sorry, guys. There, it's fixed. I should have gotten rid of it. Only one word is necessary. You can use as many as you want, but only one is necessary. About 1 more minute on this one. We're going to go to the next picture. Mira, I paid, but it's like frozen. Yeah, I did. It's just one of those days. It happens. All right, we're going to move on to the next screen now. So now you're working, you're going to continue your story. So whatever you wrote in the first 2 pictures, we're continuing now using a word for addition. That's and, again, and then, besides, equally important, finally, further, furthermore, nor, which is kind of a negative word. That's right. Yeah, I definitely agree with Roshan. Let's save what we're doing in the chat. Let's save that for later, okay? Write it in your book or just on your computer, but let's not share it in the chat yet. I definitely agree. So these are the words. We want to use at least one word or phrase for addition. Okay, about 30 more seconds. We're going to go to the next picture. Remember, you just need to use one word from each page. If you want to use more, that's fine. You should try, if you can, to bring in something from the picture. So this sentence should be something about the monkeys as well. If you can't, it's better at least that you use one of these words about audition, but it would be best if you could connect the pictures in your story. Okay? Ready? Gonna move on. Now we're looking at words for comparison. If you don't feel comfortable with one of these phrases, maybe you don't know how to use it, let's avoid that one. Let's stick with what we know, okay? So here are some phrases and words for comparison. Whereas, but, yet, on the other hand, however, nevertheless, on the contrary, by comparison, where, compared to, up against, balanced against, vis-a-vis, but, although, conversely, meanwhile, after all, in contrast, and although this may be true. Yeah, vis-a-vis is a strange one. I'll write an example sentence what vis-a-vis can look like in the chat, but for now, try to use one of the other ones. I know this one has some challenging phrases. I'll give it another minute here. We'll move on. If you write one sentence and you want to continue, try to finish a story out, that's fine. Kind of make more detail. Okay, I'm going to move on. This will be downloadable if you want this list of words and pictures later to tell the story and using at least one of the words or phrases on each screen. These are words and phrases that we can use to give examples. So we've got, for example, for instance, in this case, in another case, on this occasion, in this situation, take the case of, to demonstrate, to illustrate, or as an illustration. Okay, about 20 more seconds, we're going to move on. Okay, we're going to go to the next screen. Yep. We're going to make our own, Roshan is correct. Make your own story, connecting these pictures using the transition words. It can be fun, but it should be also serious work. We're trying to learn transition words. All right, next picture. We're connecting this picture and all the other pictures before to this picture. These are words that we can use for exception. Yet, still, however, nevertheless, in spite of, despite, of course, once in a while, and sometimes. Okay, about 20 more seconds. Remember what Roshan said. We're trying to connect each picture to the next one using these transition words and devices. Okay. Now we're adding a word for emphasis. This is the second to last picture. There will be one more picture after this. These are words that emphasize something, like очень, very much, right? Definitely, extremely, obviously, in fact, indeed, in any case, absolutely, positively, naturally, surprisingly, always, forever, perennially, which means every year, eternally, which means forever, never, emphatically, unquestionably, without a doubt, undeniably, and without reservation, which means without thinking. There was a question, how are these photos supposed to be related? Through your storytelling. Your creativity gets us there. Take about one more minute. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide now. There's one slide left. This is the last slide. So on this one, we're going to work on conclusion. Finish your story. We're summarizing. So these are words and phrases we can use to summarize a story. In brief, on the whole, summing up, to conclude, in conclusion, as I've shown, as I've said, hence, therefore, accordingly, thus, as a result, and consequently. This is the last one, and I know it's a hard one. This picture is difficult. I understand that. So I'll give you 2 minutes. Don't worry about sending it when you're done. We'll share with each other in a moment. Okay, about 30 seconds. Okay, I think that gets us to about the end. Yeah, great. In order to get shared some writing. So I'm going to go ahead and just a moment here. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. All right. So I hope that was fun. We're going to get back into, let me share the screen again for a second. Okay, so we had 10 slides. Actually, I think it was 8 slides. Sorry about that. My numbers are off. There we go, right? And we're trying to connect all those. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put us in breakout rooms, okay? And I'd like you to share. I love that we're sharing here. We'll look at these in like a general discussion in a second, but some people are going to be more comfortable sharing this if we share in smaller groups. So I'm gonna put us in groups, okay, of about, probably 3-4 people in each group, and I'd like you to share with everybody. Don't be afraid if you're wrong. Don't be afraid if it's not good. They're all kind of nonsense, right? So give me a second here. I need to get the right number. There we go. All right, so I'm going to add you to a group. Please join that group. You're going to share your writing. And if you're listening to someone else, we're not just listening to laugh, although hopefully it is funny. We're also listening for those transition words. See if you can identify them. If it's too long to type out, you can read it to your group instead. All right. Guys, I'm sorry if I brought us back too early. I try to keep an eye on everything. There are some incredibly creative pieces of writing here. And so if you can do this, remember what I said, good writing should be fun, right? When we are doing writing correctly, it should be fun. And so if you can do this, and if this can be fun, and you don't know how to continue practicing writing, never mind your essay for a second. Of course we need to do the essay. Of course we do. But if you need something else, look for some pictures that could help you, okay? I'm just gonna share a quick website with you that I think would be useful for us, okay? So I wasn't actually planning on sharing this today, but I can, it doesn't matter. This is the VOA News Learning English website, okay? So if you've never been to VOA, this is Voice of America. There are some really interesting articles from all over the world on here made for English language learners. So right at your ability level. But what I want to show you is this VOA Day in Photos. And so here we have lots of different photos, and there are captions or descriptions for each one of these, but you wouldn't need them. You could actually use the image, just the image, and try to write about it. You could use this as a launch pad to do some writing. This would just be for your own fun, not for the essay. But remember what I said. One of the keys to becoming a better writer is writing more often, right? And so I think that that is a good thing to do, all right? So that's, here, I'll type that out. Just a second. I'll share that link. That's the link that I just shared you with the different pictures on it, okay? So back to our PowerPoint, okay? Hopefully that was fun. Now, I know that we're not very far in our personal statement yet. You've only been with me, this is our 4th day together, right? But once you start writing, we want to think about all those words, okay? So let's go back for a second. Again, this is available on the website. You can download it. But words that we could use for kind, words we could use for addition, words that we could use for comparison, words for examples, words that we could use to talk about an exception to something, words and phrases that we could use to give emphasis to something, and words that we can use to conclude or summarize a story. We want to look at the relationships between ideas in our essay and then ask ourselves, which one of these could we use? Okay? So that's one of the big questions for us. Next, it's really important. So at this point, we're working, yeah, it's on the Padlet. It's on the Padlet. That's right. That's right. Sorry, I was trying to check the chat and I just closed this out. Give me a second here. It's really important once we've been writing our essays, once you've got more than the introduction, you've started to get body paragraphs and this kind of thing. It's important to think about your paragraph flow. So flow is one of those words, like I know Zoomers or Generation Z or whatever you want to call you guys, everybody always talks about vibes, right? Like, oh, we got a vibe, okay? Or feels or whatever. Flow is another one of those words that's like not entirely clear what it actually means, but people say it a lot, right? Well, it does actually have a meaning, okay? And this is the meaning we're talking about. It's the connection. The flow is the connection from one idea to the next one, okay? So there are multiple ways that we can create some feeling of flow in an essay, okay? So do ideas or paragraphs appear to be placed in chronological order? That means, does whatever comes first hit the first paragraph followed by what comes next, or is it whatever comes last goes after, right? So is it a time-based essay where you're talking about what happened first, next, last, or last, middle, first, right? Or are you organizing in a different way? Are you organizing your paper so that you're going from the least important idea to the most important, or from the most important to the least important? Vice versa means reverse. Are you going from the most general broad ideas to the most specific, or are you going from the most specific ideas to the broadest? Okay, here's a trick. Any one of these could be the right answer. Okay, it's not like one of these is better than others. The goal is not to have the one right organizational style for your essay. The truth is there's more than one right style. The goal is to have some kind of organization and to have that plan in your head. So this is where making some kind of outline or overall plan for what you want to say can be very, very useful. Okay, we're going to work on a practice of this right now. So I want you to take this paragraph. We're not going to get into small groups for this. We could, but we're not going to. This is a paragraph about travel, hotels, and transportation. And I want you to look at this paragraph, and we need to move sentences around. So the first thing I'll ask you, in the chat box, can you tell me which sentence should come first? When you go on a trip, you need to think about how much money to allot for things like transportation, food, and hotels, someone says. Okay, could be first. Any other? Okay, what should come next? Planning your trip will allow you to have a more relaxed trip. Maybe. What's up, buddy? Can I help you?
Let's play football.
You can play football. I got to work on some writing with these guys. All right, here, why don't you go do that? Okay? Sorry, I got a request at my house for some football, guys. We'll have to do that later. Okay, so if we move these sentences around, let me show you what would make the most sense. Okay, I'd be open to alternative ideas here. But I think I agree that when you go, that should come early in our writing, but I don't know that it's first. I think we need a really general statement first. We think about flow. So it is important to plan your trips carefully. That's about the biggest, broadest sentence that we could have, okay? Then when you go on a trip, you need to think about how much money to allot for things like transportation, food, and hotels. We're getting a little bit more specific here, okay? And then we're going to come into some examples after. Hotels and transportation on trips can be expensive if you don't book them with plenty of time in advance. Now, another thing is a clear indicator that this should come later in the paragraph, right? Another thing to plan for is how much time you want to spend sightseeing and doing different sorts of practices or activities. Even though you may want to do something, you have to remember that there are only so many hours in the day. Planning your trip carefully will allow you to have a more relaxed trip. Now, let me say something. I actually feel like this is the best way to organize this. However, we could move two sentences around. I would be comfortable moving "it is important to plan your trips carefully" to the last sentence and moving the last sentence to the first. I think this is better the way it is because I like the idea of ending on the idea of a relaxed trip and starting with the more general, but it is a good indicator that we can do this, that a lot of times the first sentence is not a repetition, but kind of a return to the idea in the last sentence, okay? That those are connected in some way, okay? Any questions on that? Flow is important, not just at the multi-paragraph level when we work on the story, although that's true. We want to make sure that our paragraphs are fitting in a clear way one after the other, but also even within a paragraph. Okay, moving on. It's also important to ask, so what? Okay, so sometimes we need to cut something out, right? So many of us have essays that are getting close to a word limit required by a Common App or by a university. And we can often help fit within the requirements by focusing on the main idea or ideas of an essay? Is everything we're saying fitting an idea? So on the next screen, I've included a paragraph which has some sentences we can remove. Let's see if we can spot the unnecessary sentences. There are 2 sentences in here. I'll just tell you, there's 2 that we need to get rid of. Cool, buddy, go sit down. Go with mom. Can you go to mom? Go to mom. Go to mom. Go to mom. All right, I see some comments. This one shouldn't take too long. Yeah, the grandmother thing, and I used to run every day. Those aren't bad sentences. In a different essay or in a different paragraph, they might be okay. What's the problem with those sentences? Let's see if we can voice it. Yeah, they're examples from our life, and the rest of the essay isn't really about our life, right? I mean, it could be connected to our life, but it's a general idea of the value of exercise or the benefits of exercise. It's not natural or normal to bring in our personal stories here, okay? You want to think about this in your essay. If you're talking about examples of your success at bringing together groups to accomplish something on a project, maybe in Olympiad or in some kind of club that you had at school, then maybe you think, oh, I just want to put in as much as I can about my success, and then you throw in a sentence about how you're also a good swimmer. Well, that sentence about how you're a good swimmer doesn't fit there. So when we ask ourselves, so what, that's what we need to be cutting, the things that we can't answer that well, okay? So I'm checking the chat to make sure everything's good. Okay, next one. So we found them. Good job. These are the sentences to get rid of. Okay, now a little bit more here. Here we've got different transition words. For instance, in conclusion, moreover, furthermore, as a result, for example, and consequently. Now, before we start this activity, I'm going to have you read this and try to fill these in. I want to show you something though. Each one of these has 2 words that kind of go together. So for instance is the same as for example. Moreover works the same way as furthermore. This is kind of an additional thing. As a result works the same as consequently. Okay, in conclusion is different. It's sort of its own thing. So imagine that this was your writing. Where would you put these transition words? This will take some people a while. I'm going to give 3 minutes on this. It's great that we're thinking about this, but I just want to make sure this is something that everyone can try. So I'm going to give at least another minute, maybe 2 minutes. Okay. If you're not done yet, I understand, but let's start looking through this together. Okay? Imagine that this was your writing. The 21st century is already turning out to be the century of the computer. The computer revolution that started after the Second World War is now developing more quickly, and computers are beginning to influence and take over nearly every aspect of our lives. Computers are clearly changing and affecting society in many ways. The two main effects computers have had on our lives are in the areas of economics and communications. The computer has led to big changes in our economic and business lives. Businesses now have to be computerized or they risk failure. So what could I do for number one? So number one is giving us more detail about something, right? We need to check the relationship. Okay, so we would either use moreover or furthermore. This is about addition, okay? Moreover or furthermore, every big corporation bases its operations on computing regardless of which sector they're in. Now we have examples of things, right? So we would use for example or for instance. Coca-Cola, the BBC, and Levi's market and sell different products and services, yet they all share one basic property. Without computers, their operations would collapse. Computing is a generator of economic dynamism. China and India and many other developing countries have large IT sectors which drive their economies upwards. Okay? For example, the more advanced economies, including Germany, the United States, Japan, and Korea, are moving from an industrial-based economy to a computer and IT-based one. So we said developing countries, and then we have examples of countries, right? The other important effect of the computer is that communication has been totally revolutionized, okay? Furthermore, in the past, or we could say, well, let me think. I guess communication's been revolutionized. We could use another example word here. For example, for instance, in the past, people wrote letters, which would often take weeks to reach their destinations, or speak on the phone, which was terribly expensive. Now they send email, right? Moreover, many people use computers to communicate with people, okay? Good. Okay, I'm gonna check the chat, see what people are saying here. Great, great, looks good, okay? In conclusion, computers have had a profound effect on our lives in many ways, and it is in business and communication that they've had the greatest influence. Okay. Great. So that gets us to the end here. What does that leave us with? Let me stop sharing for a second. Hi, everybody. So we want to think pretty clearly about using transitions. To do that, we need to also think about how the transition is going to fit into our writing. And to do that, we need to write the rest of the essay, right? Which is a difficult thing to do. I understand that. So the homework would be, look back through your hook paragraph first. Okay, actually, sorry, let me take that back, because a lot of us didn't write the hook paragraph. So if you haven't written the hook paragraph, you need to decide what topic, what story you want to tell, write that hook paragraph, and then think about your flow, okay? So think about what should come next, okay? We're gonna spend our last 8 minutes looking at an example essay that I hope can actually help us here, okay? We're gonna spend a lot of tomorrow looking at example essays as well. Okay, but you wanna think about your flow, and then once you've got paragraphs written, think about the relationship between the idea in one paragraph and the ideas in the next paragraph. How are those connecting, and what transitions could we use? You also wanna think within a paragraph about the connections and transitions that we could use between ideas, okay? So, I'm gonna use a little bit of time. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. But I am gonna use a little bit of our time now to share at least one sample essay. If we have more time, I'd love to share more. Okay. So these are on the College Essay Guys blog, College Essay Examples. I heard from at least one participant that you need to use a VPN to do this. So I actually have a VPN on right now. I'm not sure. I haven't had that problem in the past, but if you need to, I would say better safe than sorry. And so you're definitely welcome to try that on your own. We're going to look at one essay now. And we're going to talk about why this works. Okay. So, personal statement. This is called burying grandma, or at least that's what it's being called here. So this would work for prompts 1 and 7. Let's remember the prompts, right? Prompt 1, go all the way back here. Prompt 1 is some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful that the application would be incomplete without it. All right, so let's look at this. This is kind of tell us your story, right? Okay. They covered the precious mahogany coffin with a, would you guys like me to read it? I don't have to read it. I leave it up to you. You can actually read it on your own if you prefer.
I think
Comfortable reading, but if you
read it.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat. All right, I'm going to go ahead and read this, okay? They covered the precious mahogany coffin with a brown amalgam of rocks, decomposed organisms, and weeds. It was my turn to take the shovel. Okay, but I felt too ashamed to dutifully send her off when I had not properly said goodbye. I refused to throw dirt on her. I refused to let go of my grandmother, to accept a death I had not seen coming, to believe that an illness could not only interrupt but steal a beloved life. So here's our hook. Keep that in mind, okay? When my parents finally revealed to me that my grandmother had been battling liver cancer, I was 12 and I was angry, mostly with myself. They had wanted to protect me, only 6 years old at the time, from the complex and morose concept of death. I want you to notice, while we're reading this, how the details are coming out, how we're revealing the story. However, when the end inevitably arrived, I wasn't trying to comprehend what dying was. I was trying to understand how I'd been able to abandon my sick grandmother in favor of playing with friends and watching TV. Hurt that my parents had deceived me and resentful of my own oblivion, I committed myself to preventing such blindness from resurfacing. I became desperately devoted to my education because I saw knowledge as the key to freeing myself from the chains of ignorance. While learning about cancer in school, I promised myself that I would memorize every fact and absorb every detail in textbooks and online medical journals. And as I began to consider my future, I realized that what I learned in school would allow me to silence that which had silenced my grandmother. However, I was focused not with learning itself, but with good grades and high test scores. I started to believe that academic perfection would be the only way to redeem myself in her eyes, to make up for what I had not done as a granddaughter. However, a simple walk on the hiking trail behind my house made me open my eyes, my own eyes to the truth. Over the years, everything, even honoring my grandmother, had become second to school and grades. As my shoes humbly tapped against the earth, the towering trees blackened by the forest fire a few years ago, the faintly colorful pebbles embedded in the sidewalk, and the wispy white clouds hanging in the sky reminded me of my small, though nonetheless significant part in the larger whole that is humankind in this earth. I want you to take a moment and appreciate the descriptive language being used here, right? Not in the introductory paragraph, but in other parts of the essay. Before I could resolve my guilt, I had to broaden my perspective of the world as well as my responsibilities to my fellow humans. Volunteering at a cancer treatment center has helped me discover my path. When I see patients trapped in not only the hospital, but also a moment in time by their diseases, I talk to them. For 6 hours a day, 3 times a week, Ivana is surrounded by IV stands, empty walls, and busy nurses that quietly yet constantly remind her of her breast cancer. Her face is pale and tired yet kind, not unlike my grandmother's. I need only to smile and say hello to see her brighten up as life returns to her face. Upon our first meeting, she opened up about 2 of her sons, her hometown, and her knitting group. No mention of her disease. Without even standing up, the 3 of us, Ivana, me, and my grandmother, had taken a walk together. Cancer, as powerful and invincible as it may seem, is a mere fraction of a person's life. It's easy to forget when one's mind and body are so weak and vulnerable. I want to be there as an oncologist to remind them to take a walk once in a while, to remember that there's so much more to life than a disease. While I physically treat their cancer, I want to lend patients emotional support and mental strength to escape the interruption and continue living. Through my work, I can accept the shovel without burying my grandmother's memory. Wow. Okay, so that's a pretty heavy essay, right? But we get a little bit here, and we notice, think about the essay about father, right? Just like that, this is an essay about someone else. This is an essay about a grandmother who's passed away that we loved very much. And yet it is not only about the grandmother, is it? It's also about the student and what the student is inspired to do because of grandmother, to educate about cancer, to educate themselves about the medical world, and then to get into volunteer work. And so we'll talk about this tomorrow, but part of the homework will be looking at this essay again. And I'd like to consider where transitions are, where transitions might fit. And then maybe take your hook that you've written today and think about what you would write next. You could start writing if you feel comfortable doing it. Don't worry about right answers yet. We're getting our first draft written, right? So think about how you would connect ideas. I think that's about it for me. I'm going to let Roshan speak if she has any comments. Ro, you got anything?
We actually have 2 videos recorded with Thomas, and those 2 videos, they're about structure. So maybe it will be useful for you actually to watch those videos also. You shouldn't, you don't have to do it today, but maybe next week you will find time. They're not so long, and you will learn how to structure your essay. So there's 2 structures, montage structure and the narrative structure. You can also read about those structures in the book that you have. Really, you need to read about 20 pages. 20 pages is not a lot, but it will make your process of writing an essay much easier.
Yeah, good. Great. Great illustration of the fact that Education USA has a ton of resources outside of this short camp that we have together. Okay, so like Roshan was kind of hinting at, it's like I always tell my son at the Need Therapist, okay, this is not a race. You take your time to get this done. It's more of a marathon. It's a process, okay? And so the more we read, especially about, or the more we watch about the structure, the better the essay is going to be in the long run. Okay, so take your time with this. You're welcome to see this later. We've got all of our training. We've got the videos later and everything as well. Okay, so that's it for now. Tomorrow we're going to talk about writing conclusions. Okay, it's going to be a very interactive day. I'm looking forward to that. And then to finish things off on Tuesday, we'll talk about revision and editing. Okay, so thank you everybody. Brak miet. See you next time, okay?